Yeah, so hello everybody, very much welcome to our webinar with the title Employment Policy as an Example of the Integration of Partially Sighted Individuals into the Labor Market. So this webinar is hosted by the Union of the Blind and Partially Sighted of Slovenia, this year's coordinator for low vision activities for the European Blind Union. And we are really honored to have this chance to organize this webinar. The panelist today will be my Slovenian colleague, Anja Uršič. She's doctoral. Hello, Anja. She's doctoral student at Faculty for Social Sciences in Ljubljana. She's also very active in European Blind Union. And I'm also very excited to announce that Anja, as a special Anja's guest today, is Roy Imison. Did I say it correctly?
You did, yeah, thank you.
Okay, from Royal National Institute of Blind is joining us today. So I will just summarize briefly the webinar's topic, okay? So in first part of the webinar, Anja will present a brief theoretical conceptualization based on correlation between different models of disability and perception of low vision. The webinar will be continued by highlighting employment policy and its approaches to integrate people with low vision into the labor market. And in the second part, Roy will, as an employment advisor at Royal National Institute of Blind, he will present a good practice case on how NGOs operating in the disability field can cooperate with businesses in order to enhance the full integration of people with low vision into the labor market. So before I give the floor to Anja, maybe we just introduce ourselves just shortly. Again, what's our name, what country we come from, what's the organization we come from. Maybe just if I'm someone again, let's repeat because not everyone heard us before. If I start, I am Nastya. I'm from Union of Blind and Partially Sighted of Slovenia. And today I'm today's organizer. I'm happy to have you all here, and maybe you can proceed.
So maybe me. So I'm Anja Uršič from the Union of the Blind and Partially Sighted of Slovenia. And yeah, I will present you today the topics that Nastya mentioned.
Thank you, Anja. Roland, are you with us?
Yes, I'm with you. My name is Roland. I'm president of the Swiss Federation of the Blind, and I am personally nearly blind. Thanks for organizing this event today.
Thank you very much, Roland. And maybe Dace?
Yeah.
So you're from Latvia, right? Let me just see what happened. Okay, your microphone is turned off.
No?
Yes, now we hear you.
Yeah, no. So my name is Dace Dobraja. I'm vice president of Latvian Society of the Blind. I'm partially sighted since 20 years of age. I'm a retired diplomat, and now I have been elected as our vice president a year ago, as I told, and we are very happy that we are again members of EBU. Quite recently, that happened in mid-October. So myself and our president, we will meet you probably in Lisbon in February. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Annette?
Hi, everybody. My name is Annette Puskás. As I said, I work at the Hungarian Federation of the Blind and Partially Sighted. I'm a youth officer. We have 41 members in the country, and I am also partially sighted.
Thank you. Then we have Eva here.
Yes, good morning. My name is Eva, and I'm an Erasmus student from Germany.
and I am doing my internship at the Union for Blind and Visually Impaired People in Slovenia.
Yeah. And then is Anna.
Yes, hello, I'm Anna and I'm studying, I don't know how to say, Nastya, please help me, inkluzivna pedagogika.
So it's like inclusion pedagogics.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm also writing this...
master thesis, right? About
yes,
employing people with visual impairment.
Yes, yes. Thank you very much for helping me.
Okay, and Barbara, you already introduced yourself a little bit. You didn't tell us where you come from, right? The microphone is off.
Yes. Can you hear me? Yes, you can.
Yes.
I'm Barbara Krejci-Piri from Slovenia, and I'm maybe the oldest here. My employment period is over, but I was occupied a lot with young blind and partially sighted people in our blind regional association when I was in the period of 8 years the president of our Ljubljana association of blind and partially sighted, and we made many projects, and we encouraged all young people to work, to find a work, we helped them, and so what was possible, of course, in that period. But myself, I finished law studies and I worked as a judge of minor offenses, and then also on the second degree. And then I was retired because of deterioration of my sight. And I was also very active within the field of low vision in EBU, maybe till 2018, 19. So yeah, that's it. And I'm very happy that this story is continuing now also in Slovenia and in EBU. So thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. And Roy, if you say a few words about you. I know you're gonna say more later, but maybe just short introduction.
Yeah, sure. And there's on cue, there's my guide dog coming in. So my name is Roy Imes, and I'm speaking to you today from Devon in the UK. I work for the RNIB, Royal National Institute of the Blind, and my whole life seems to have been evolved around helping people, supporting people into different parts of employment or education. And that's a very brief introduction to me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so Anja, now the floor is yours.
Yeah, Rob, can you please share the PowerPoint presentation on the screen? Okay, so just next slides. Yeah, and also skip this slide because Nastya already introduced the structure of the webinar. Okay, so firstly, I would like to shortly introduce how actually the conceptual models of disability can help us to better and deeply understand the perception of low vision. So these models of disability that can be implied also in the experience with low vision are very important because in one hand they help us to legitimize our experience by acknowledging that our low vision and as a disability is not just a solely medical issue, but it's kind of a social and cultural phenomenon. And they also help us to let's say, more deeply understand the multi-layered and complex nature of our disability. And last but not least, these models also contribute to create more inclusive and cohesive, let's say, society by promoting equal opportunities for integrating people with low vision into the labor market. So, Rock, can you please move to the next slide? And now I go briefly through all models of disability that can be applied to our experience with low vision. So I will begin with a moral model of disability that actually indicates that disability is inflicted as a punishment of individual or, let's say, moral historical transgressions by a will of a higher power. So in this framework, low vision is understood as a personal tragedy, and it's actually, this model is driven by an acceptance of a justifiable punishment, because this individual did some forms of prior reprehensible actions in his or her past. And then the medical model developed kind of a humanist response to this magical religious explanation of disability. And within this medical model, low vision is understood more as an impairment on the, let's say, bodily level. And individuals with low vision are perceived as, let's say, as a patients that should be included in some forms of vocational rehabilitation and other programs that help them to return in a normal productive state that is for society, let's say, perceived as being normal state. And also in the past, based on the developing, let's say, scientific interventions and medical development, this model became kind of a standard for explanation and also solution to disability, and of course also to how to perceive individuals with severe sight loss. And the focus of the medical model is that all responsibility and blame is put on the individuals with some types of disability, such as low vision, and it's actually their duty of these individuals to return to the normal state. So all the blame and responsibility is put on the individual. While, for instance, within the social disability model, that actually rejects this authoritative relationship towards individuals with low vision, and medical models' inability to separate socially constructed concept of disability and impairment allows a shift of this responsibility, so from individual to the society. So it's not the individual that has a severe sight loss or is partially sighted. It's not the duty of this individual to become kind of a normal, but it's the problem of the society, and all the responsibility is actually put on the assigned to community, because society, through its unwillingness to help these individuals with low vision to integrate to the broader, let's say, community, can hinder the opportunities. And within this model, that is also usually referred to as UK social model, disability is understood within a social oppression context. So disability is socially constructed, and society is responsible how actually we can be fully be fully included into the labor market. And moving on, the embodiment model of disability is actually again emphasizing, okay, it's not just the society that is responsible how these people can involve in the society, but it's also the individual's experience with impairment and their reality, how they can actually, it's kind of that disability is comprising some degree of, let's say, of limitations and activity restrictions. So it's not just the society, but also our impairment that hinders us from, let's say, being fully integrated into the labor market. And then we have the other model, that is Nordic relational model, which mainly focuses on a relationship between person and environment. And within this model, disability and also low vision can be understood as person-environment mismatch, also as that is situational and relative. So again, focus is on the relationship between individual and society. And then we also have other models, for instance, difference model of disability, that is actually very important for the employment field, because these models starts from the starting point that attitudes that society has towards individuals with a low vision is actually that attitudes do not derive solely from a cognitive process, but they derive from a fact-based associations. So now I will kind of present you what actually attitudes also are, because we have to deeply understand what this model wants to tell us. Attitudes are complex constructs that are comprising from affective, behavioral, and cognitive elements. And researchers found out that attitudes are not just subject to the cognitive process, but to the to affect-based associations. So, for instance, in the research was shown that when individuals without disability were paired with individuals with disabilities, also including those with low vision and blindness, these individuals without disabilities had a strong physiological arousal, such as galvanic skin response and elevated cardiac rates. So actually this research showed that it's not how we actually think, and society wants to us to how to perceive individual disabilities, but that there are affect-based associations in each individual, when they perceive difference, they behave differently. And these affect-based premises are actually primitive, spontaneous, and are based on emotional discomfort when they interacted with individuals with different types of disabilities. And so the point of this difference model is that cognitive process actually begins later, already when our affect-based associations are already created in our limbic system. And actually this model is the first model that points out this starting point, because all other models that I mentioned before, from moral, medical, social, embodiment, and others, are based on cognitive interpretation of a relationship between societies and between society and individuals with disabilities, also including those with, of course, with low vision. And this made quite of a shift in theories how disabilities and different types of disabilities can be actually perceived. And also here I mentioned human rights model that actually focuses mostly on rights of individuals with disabilities, and mostly promoting inclusion, accessibility, and equality. And then it's also important, the charity model of disability, because it's usually kind of incorporated within our let's say framework of NGOs operating in the field of providing services for individuals with low vision. And this model actually emphasizes the aid and services that we provide for this targeted population, but at the same time it's quite criticized because of its it puts a lot of dependency, and so it actually criticizes that these individuals are becoming more passive because they just became used to let's say to receive some services or financial supports and aid. And the last model that I would like to mention is a biopsychosocial model that is actually focused on the interaction between biological, psychological, and social factors that influence the experience with disability. So it's more, let's say, holistic than the others are. Okay, and Rob, can you please put the next slide? Okay, and now if you are going into the, let's say, the field of employment policy, so actually here in Slovenia, the framework for integrating individuals with low vision is, let's say, the basis for their integration is within the vocational rehabilitation and employment of people with disabilities act that was adopted in 2004. So actually the integration of individuals with low vision is just part of this general legislation. We do not have, let's say, specific employment approaches to address this disadvantaged position of individuals with low vision in the labor market. And what actually employment policy is. So firstly, we have to know that in the labor market, there arose kind of dysfunctions that state should and must, let's say, address and mitigate these dysfunctions. And so within the employment policy, state can intervene within three typical interventions to improve and enhance, let's see, the integration of individuals with low vision into the labor market. So first type of intervention, it's the right side. So the first intervention is regulatory intervention. So these are procedural binding regulations to improve this disadvantaged position of these individuals, influencing the management of employers. And a good example of a regulatory intervention is quota system that I will also explain later in the presentation. The second type of intervention is compensatory intervention. So the aim is to compensate the unfavorable position of these individuals with transfer of resources. And a nice example for these interventions are vocational rehabilitation, workplace adaptation, and wage subsidies. And as a third intervention is identified substitutive intervention. So with this substitutive intervention, actually state intervene in the way with creating specific job positions in a public sector or within a companies for people with disabilities. So, okay, these are general, let's say, interventions that now I will explain them, all the categories in the next slide. So, Rock, please, next slide. So when we are talking about wage subsidies, these are actually compensation to an employer for hiring a person with a disability. And this right has every employee with low vision or other types of disability, and it asserts with a fund for employment of persons with disabilities. And wage subsidy actually kind of rock back slide. It's not the right slide. It's actually the wage subsidy depends on the form of employment. So, for instance, if an individual with low vision is included within a sheltered employment, the wage subsidy will range from 30 to 70%. While, for instance, if an individual with low vision is included within a supported employment, the wage subsidy will range from 5 to 30%, and the same percentage from 5 to 30 is if an individual is employed within companies for people with disabilities. So yeah, next slide, please. Okay, then we have a quota system. So employers employing at least 20 workers are obligated to hire a person with a disability within a specific quota system. And for instance, in Slovenia, the quota system is between 2% and 6%. But it's quite ironic because here in Slovenia, for instance, the lowest quota, so 2%, is for public administration. And for instance, the other sectors such as tourism or health and social care have more higher quota than the public and administration sector. To meeting the quota, actually also there can be considered two different options. So there is the one that employers also can enter into the contracts with companies for people with disabilities or employment centers. And the most preferable one in Slovenia is that employers, instead of employing, for instance, individuals with low vision, they prefer to pay for the unfulfilled quota to the fund of employment for persons with disabilities, and they actually pay 70% of 70% of the minimum wage for each individual they should employ within a quota. So, okay, Rock, please, next slide. Okay. Then we have the workplace adaptation that is usually approach, let's say, the most used. Because workplace adaptation, when we are talking about it, it's when employers organize a workplace, let's say, considering all the needs and work abilities of an individual with a specific disability, in this case of individual with low vision. And actually they organize this workplace in a sense that they give kind of technical support and specific equipment to help the individual that is employed. And also they, of course, let's say, respect also the ergonomic principles within this adaptation. In Slovenia, the legal basis for workplace adaptation is the Vocational Rehabilitation and Employment for Persons with Disabilities Act. Okay, next slide, please. Then we have the approach that in Slovenia is actually not implemented anymore, but is in other countries. So the reserved job positions. The starting point of this approach is that some jobs are more suitable for individuals with different types of disabilities. And that the reservation for this position is logical and justified. And for example, in the past, in the former Yugoslavia, there was adopted a law on the employment of blind and partially sighted for the profession of a telephone operator. So, but this was in the past, and nowadays, as due to the development of technology, actually this profession is not needed anymore. So it's not implemented. For instance, in the Spain, they have still this approach still implemented. For instance, for the blind and partially sighted, within the profession of a seller seller of lottery tickets. So blind and partially sighted, for instance, have, let's say, they are prioritized to be employed in this profession. Okay, so next slide, please. Then we have another approach that is vocational rehabilitation and is spread all over the Europe, actually. This is a service that aims at enabling a person to acquire unemployment, retain it, and have a possibility to advance in this employment or to change their professional career. This vocational rehabilitation here in Slovenia is actually provided by Uršič, and they have a professional team of doctor, physiotherapist, psychologist, social worker, and one that give you advices for technology adaptations. And so when you go through this rehabilitation and all these, let's say, tasks and estimations of your, let's say, what degree of work results can you achieve with your work abilities, then the Service of Employment of Republic of Slovenia issues a decision based on this estimation within vocational rehabilitation. And the exit points of vocational rehabilitation can be really different. So the individual with low vision can be employed in the open labor market or employed within sheltered employment, or if it's assessed as unemployable, they can be then included into the social inclusion programs. Okay, Rock, next slide. Okay, and so what actually social inclusion programs are? So as I already mentioned, if a person is assessed as unemployable and despite rehabilitation and other accommodations and adaptations, they actually do not achieve work results amounting at least 1/3 of those of an employee in the regular job position. So when they are assessed as unemployable, they are sent to these programs where they gain status of award, and actually within these programs they perform, let's say, more not so demanding tasks, and the focus is more on the social integration than on the work productivity. Okay, next slide, please. Then I will present you the let's say the main two approaches, so that these are sheltered and supported employment. And so what actually sheltered employment means is actually employment of persons with disabilities that cannot be employed in the open labor market, and they need let's say some form of more protective and safe workplace environment. And the typical organizations that provide sheltered employment are sheltered workshops, companies for people with disabilities, and also employment centers. So the aim of this employment form is mostly focused on the trainings and to prepare an individual to, let's say, to get him integrated to the open labor market. But in practice is that bridge between, let's say, between sheltered employment and regular employment, it's not so well established, and usually these individuals are staying in the sheltered employment for all their employment period. And typical works that they do within a sheltered employment are, for instance, printing, gardening, catering, and some other, let's say, manual labor. So, yeah. And the other approach is supported employment that I already mentioned through my presentation. Actually, this model began in North America in 1970s, and from there spread all over the Europe, and is kind of a form of employment in a regular regular environment in the open labor market, where workplace is adapted and the technical support and professional support are provided to both, so to employer and to the individual with low vision. Actually, a key role within this approach is played by a job coach that mentors and supports the performance of all tasks during the employment. Okay, so next slide. And also here in Slovenia are becoming more and more important social enterprises and their role in integrating individuals with low vision into the labor market. So what actually social enterprises are? These are businesses that alongside generating income, their main goal is to address social and environmental issues. So actually they want to have create some, let's say, social impact in the community, and with their generation of income, they they maintain their sustainability and autonomy from the state. Also, one of their characteristics is inclusive governance, where one man has one vote, and actually all the employees within social enterprises are usually participating in a decision-making bodies. And when we're talking about social enterprises in Slovenia, we have, let's say, kind of this de facto social enterprises, which are companies for people with disabilities and employment centers, which work kind of as work integration social enterprises with the main goal to address the unemployment amongst persons with disabilities, and are kind of striving to reduce the unemployability among this targeted population. So next slide, please. Okay, here I would also like to mention the typology of employment models for persons with disabilities, but of course within these models there are also included individuals with low vision, and this typology is actually important because it presents kind of a conceptual framework for stakeholders and policymakers in the field of employment. There was a typology that was developed, integration and segregation typology. So the integration typology emphasizes how should individuals with different types of disability must be integrated with other co-workers during their employment. And while the segregation model emphasizes and criticizes that a lot of times we see that individuals with disabilities are segregated from other co-workers, and for that reason they are also more socially excluded. And yeah, please. Okay. So here is the typology that actually is the first typology that correlates different employment approaches and different disability models. So for instance, I will go just briefly through the typology. So for instance, within a sheltered employment, there is still a strong perception of disability within this medicalized context. So where individuals are within this form of employment, individuals are usually segregated and have a very let's say high degree of social exclusion, while for instance the supported employment correlates very strongly with the social model of disability, where employees with different types of disabilities are more integrated into the workplace environment, and also the stigmatization is lower than within a sheltered employment. And of course, there is also an employment within a social enterprises that was divided into two parts. Employment with subcategory of social enterprises providing sheltered employment, and the ones providing supported employment. And again, the sheltered employment correlates with medical perception of disability, while the supported correlates with the social model of disability. And the last approach is customized approach that is very typical for US within. So this approach correlates with biopsychosocial disability model, and it focuses on the approach that is more personalized, and for instance, tasks are job position is broken down into the tasks that individual is able to perform. So the job is customized, job position is customized to the needs of an individual with low vision, or other different types of disabilities. So then here I would like to present you actually the research that was mainly the research results that were mainly focused on the individuals with low vision, and I brought together a lot of researchers that were dealing with problem of unemployment with individuals with low vision, and I would like to present you some crucial findings. So what individuals with low vision pointed out, that it is important that work is stimulating and that I have a webinar, so yeah. Yeah. Sorry for the interruption. Yeah, sorry. So yeah, they emphasized how important is that the work is stimulating and allows self-realization and some degree of autonomy. Then also individuals with low vision emphasized that there is still existing gender gap resulting in different annual earnings amongst men and women. And for instance, there are a lot of researchers pointed out some factors that really, let's say, have an impact on integration of individuals with low vision into the labor market. So these factors are, for instance, education and rehabilitation trainings. So for instance, higher education or higher degree also of literacy and their daily use of technology and Braille really positively impacted their integration or employment success in the labor market. So Rock, please, next slide. And also a lot of researchers emphasize the obstacles to integration of individuals with low vision to the labor market. So these obstacles are usually attitudes of employers and co-workers, and also, of course, in the general level, attitudes of society. Then the limited access to information and difficulty to adapt to the labor market, and of course also limited possibilities to be employed. Also, one research mentioned the importance of let's say, how important is that employers and individuals with low vision accommodate diverse needs while organizing workplace and its adaptations. And here the research pointed out the so-called accommodation, mutual accommodation model, which emphasized four conditions that should be met, that these individuals are at the end fully accommodated and integrated. So the first condition was social social and cultural constructions, and they are possibilities that these constructions should be changed during the employment. And also the important factor was that individuals understand that there is no just one way, let's say, how to navigate different words or perceptions, so that they were open to let's say, to firstly introduce their disability and low vision to the employer, explain their needs, what they need, and so on. So, and at the last let's say factor of accommodation mutual factor is changing and accommodating difference. So yeah, these were, let's say, briefly presented some findings from different researchers. So yeah, okay, and now maybe it's time to give the word to more practical. This was more, let's say, academic lecture with conceptualizations, but I think it's necessary to understand also maybe some more deeper conceptualizations, because they are basis how policies are actually created. So Roy, now can you please present actually how NGOs operating in the field of providing services for blind and partially sighted actually can do to improve the disadvantaged position of blind, partially sighted in the labor market. So yeah, please.
Okay. Thank you, Anna. That was an immense amount of information, and it sounds like a lifetime of work that you've done there. That was really interesting. Thank you. So hopefully you all can hear me okay. So I'll start with a brief introduction. So those of you that are visually impaired, I'll give you my alt text, so that'll help you paint a picture of who I am. So I'm white male in my 50s with brown hair. I live in the UK. I live in the county of Devon. And I go by my pronouns of he, him. Okay, so that's a brief introduction to me. I'm going to talk to you about the work that I'm doing with the RNIB, Royal National Institute of the Blind, over here in the UK. The RNIB, for those of you who don't know about us, we are the UK's largest sight loss sector, and we work in hand with partnerships across the UK with other sight loss charities and many other partnerships within industries. And part of the work that the RNIB has done is looking and recognising the key factors of the problems that the blind and partially sighted people have. Commute is obviously a big problem, and that's an international problem, and that's not just here. How do we navigate? How do we get around? The other piece of work is looking at meaningful employment. And that's where I'm talking to you from today. So the word meaningful employment means many things, different things to different people. And I'm part of two phases of projects. My phase is looking at the employment side, looking at the employers and how do we encourage meaningful employment across their boards. And the other part is working with the people that are registered blind or severely sighted. Now in the UK, you go through a process to become registered. You obviously start with your opticians, and then you go to the National Health Service, to the hospital. And there is a process that you go through that recognises you with it's called a certification of vision impairment. So have a look on Google for that, certificate of visual impairment, and that'll give you an understanding on how that is created. With that, we then create the list of people that are looking for work and are looking for employment. And that figure is 11,000 people that are actually looking for work. Now, those are people that can be career changers. They can be people that are at the starting blocks of looking for work, which is quite a statistic, really, 11,000 people. There is a second statistic behind that, which makes this piece of work that I'm doing really meaningful and gives me that vigor to actually carry on. And that is that there are 48,000 people that are in education that are going to be looking for the work of tomorrow. So this piece of work that I'm doing is important, that we're helping and encouraging that group of people and the education system that they're going through to make sure that they are successful with their learning. But we're also looking at the piece of work for those 11,000 people and how do we encourage them? So there's a team of people that work within RNIB and other third-party sectors that supports them into employment. So the first piece of work that I do is look at, have a Google of RNIB, Visibly Better Employer. And that's the quality standard that I assess and work with various companies and making sure that they reach the criteria. I will come on and talk about that in a few seconds, a little bit more detail, but just to put some statistics on there and the work that I've been doing. And this work has been over the last 12 months for myself. The project itself is older. It's 18 to 24 months old, and it has evolved and is evolving as we go through and work with the employers. To date, we've worked with 5 sectors, and those sectors that are within those sectors, there are organizations that are a mixture of charities and employers. And I will say that some of the employers are international employers, so they will have offices across the Europe and into America as well. So we've worked with career channels, energy providers, third sector, higher education, digital, which is quite a wide breadth, the legal, and manufacturing. So of those sectors, there are 17, that breaks down into 17 other sectors. Let's put a number on how many employers that is. So to date, there are 34 organizations that we've worked with, that we've put through the quality standard. And to date, we have helped secure and maintain people in employment to the sum of 550 people. So go back to that 11,000 people that are actively looking for work within the UK. We've still got quite a piece of work to do to encourage this change. And Anja explained very well, really, about some of the points that are global problems. And the big one is always going to be perception, isn't it? We've got to look at attitudes and changes to behaviour of people understanding what blind or partially sighted people are not just capable of doing, but have that problem-solving mechanism that they can do in employment. And creating a neurodiverse team isn't just about employing a percentage of people. It's employing people that have the skills to take that business forward. We were talking earlier about the way that employment has changed and the way that majority of companies now and organizations look at the hybrid worker and look at the hybrid worker in a context of, well, they can work from home with their home equipment, as some of us are here today. They're also adapting that they can come into the workplace and work with a team. As the world move forward in this employment criteria, we've got to look at the people that we're putting into the teams and encourage that teamwork to be very neurodiverse and across that market. So that gives you a little bit of a background of what we've done and how we're doing it. But let's talk about the actual quality standard. Now, the quality standard has 6 questions that we ask openly to explain, and those 6 questions are answered in many different ways, and the correct answers may be slightly varied, but the end result is making sure that those organizations understand how to attract meaningful, talented staff, employees. How do they put them through the process of recruitment? and then how do we maintain the workforce that we've already got? So let's start with the first one, which is the first series of questions, is about attracting staff, attracting employers. It starts with that process of that. What we're going to look at is we all use the World Wide Web to advertise jobs. How many of you are in the audience today and listen to this again, use assistive technology to read what is written on a World Wide Web? I would say that it's a high percentage. Now, there are regulations that are international. WECA is my pronunciation of them, and they look out making sure that the websites are accessible to all. This is the biggest barrier. This is the area that the most work needs to be done in changing that behavior, making people aware, because they don't, sighted people and organizations that have high volumes of people with sight, or don't employ people that are neurodiverse, that use screen reader technology, are not aware of the website problems. So that's one of the biggest challenges that we have, is making those sites accessible, that you can find the career channel. You can filter through the tabs that may drop down in a menu. You can then find a job that would read to you as a job that you wished to go for, to be attracted to. So we've got to look at the job descriptions and the wording that's within those job descriptions. How many job descriptions have you all read that state must own a car, must be prepared to travel, must drive? And automatically, the blind and partially sighted people, by the sheer nature that we don't drive, are excluded. So that statement has to be reviewed. Education terms. It's fantastic to have a degree, a management qualification and suitable qualifications. But again, is that a barrier? Maybe for some job seekers it is, when the job itself will need a skill set that person may have acquired through their own life skills, but not got qualification. So we work with employers to review the job descriptions, to review their career pages. And this service is offered to UK organisations or international organisations that employ within the UK for free. We will look at their career channels, and we will assess through these regulations that I mentioned. There's 55 different key points within the regulations that support people living with disabilities. And we look at a percentage of them that we think hit hardest to the blind and partially sighted people that are job seeking. And can we adjust and change them? Some of the changes are really simple and obvious. It's contrast. My eye condition means I like bright lights around me. So a black screen with white lettering is superb. I can read that. But other people with sight loss may have, they need lower contrast. So the first part is looking at the contrast. The second part of this first challenge, which is about attracting the people, is the application tracking systems. How many times do people go, yeah, I like the idea of that job, I'm going to apply here? And what we have to do then is to click here to apply. And this works on many social media channels as well, which meet the regulations. They've got the websites, they've got the career channels, which are fabulous. And you all know the heavy branded ones that were all there. The most popular is possibly LinkedIn. It then sends you apply here, and you go to apply here, and the assisted technology hits errors, because it will have put your surname, first name, date of birth, where you live, many questions that they're asking as they're capturing the GDPR, the data, and your consent to use that data in a format that keeps them in a legal way, but also supports the person that's looking for a job. Well, that hits as a barrier straight away, because an error will read in the corner, and then the assistive technology just can't progress past that channel. So we work with employers on looking at alternatives. We bring them back into the arena and highlight that this is something that they have to work on. And we then work on solutions and work around how we can get past this, because they've usually contracted into a long servicing contract with the ATS, the application tracking system. That may take them, to 2025, 2026. And that onboarding tracking system, even though it's a legal requirement, don't seem to pick up the pace that they're restricting people from finding work. So that's the first part, is how do you attract talent? That's neurodiverse, that's blind and partially sighted. And then we then get their details through, and we then look at how do we put them through the recruitment process, which could be interviews, which could be testing systems. So aptitude tests are very popular, or read data and analyze this data and then make a presentation is another method of sifting through the number of applicants that you've hopefully now attracted. So we look at going back to that key point which Anja mentioned as well, which is about perception and education. So within the first three criteria, what we've asked for is attract. We've got them through the onboarding system. We've got to educate the recruitment managers and the people that are going to be employing these people, so that they're aware that when a blind and partially sighted person turns up for an interview, they have an assistance dog. What do we do with the assistance dog when it arrives? And we work with them, creating policies that work for them and individually on that. We heavily suggest that in the world of technology and the digital era that we live in, and going back to these, most jobs are going to be hybrid in the future, that the interviews are carried out through Zoom or Teams or other software, so that the blind and partially sighted person feels comfortable at home. They've not had to do that other problem which I mentioned earlier on, which is commute to the place of work, which is going to be a new environment for them to navigate to. It's going to be a barrage of sliding doors, opening doors, wooden doors that they've got to get through into the premises. Then their assistance dog, if they're anything like my assistance dog, will always misbehave at that moment when you go into interview. So we're trying to reduce those barriers and work with employers on that education of how to support them with that. Now, how do you educate recruitment managers across a global network, or even a regional network, or even in your close towns? The RNIB have an e-learning module which is aimed at the employers. It covers topics which are UK based, but it does help encourage the recruitment managers to be aware. There's 4 modules within that training course. It's about 20 minutes per module. There is no end test because it's all about absorbing knowledge and the experience. We also offer training and go into the workplaces of these employers to talk to the staff as well as the recruitment managers, because the perception may be negative towards people with lived disabilities. It may be positive, but in between both of those, they may have a misunderstanding. So it's putting that into context and painting the picture of, you know, going back to where we all know, blind and partially sightedness doesn't mean that we're not capable of doing many different jobs. It's just some jobs we're not able to do that. So if we look at change the perception to being jobs are for abled people and enable everybody to be an abled person, the solutions are slowly come through. So that's the first 3 parts of the quality standard. That's attractive. That's getting them onboarded. That's getting people to perform in an interview to be the best that they can, because we all know that sometimes when we're at interview, we may not give our best. There's so many things that are going to be going on in our heads. So if we can get that right, you're going to start selecting a more diverse workforce and talented across the way. We've got them through the onboarding. With the next stage is looking at the learning that will have to happen. Most companies these days have their own individual training modules, and these tell you how to do the job, the function, whatever that may be. And within that, we insist that the documents are more supported. So we have a fund over in the UK called Access to Work. So that's for people with protected characteristics, people that are looking for, we call it reasonable adjustments over here in the UK. And I believe you have a different terminology, reasonable accommodations. And that's to look at how the blind and partially sighted people are going to work. What will they need to be able to work. Some of that work, it could be digital software, as I've mentioned a couple of times. It could be just bright lights or low lights in the place of work that they're going. It may be that back 2 or 3 stages in this, when we've helped the employer look at what jobs are suitable across, going back, we've already done this with 5 different sectors, 7 sectors. What jobs are suitable for people that are blind or partially sighted? What jobs aren't suitable for people that are blind or partially sighted? Sometimes you could say that any job is there for a blind or partially sighted person, but we all know that we can't be pilots. We can't drive digger trucks on building sites, and there are other obvious ones there that we can't do. But we can work in kitchens. We can work front of house. We can be creative and make films and videos and music. We can work in law firms and understand the legal technologies of life and how to support people legally. So there's many areas that we can work, rather than say, you can't do this, you can't do this, and you can't do that. It's why can't we do that, and what can we do to make that change? So that goes back in those first 3 stages, big pieces of work. It's not a straightforward assessment where a company can come to us and fly through this within days, although we have had a few that have sent an amazing assessment form through. And then when we had a professional discussion with them and talked to them about what they're looking to aim out of this quality standard, they do go through the system. So that's onboarding, that's attracting talent, that's new talent that we're trying to recruit. We're also doing pieces of work behind the scenes to help people career change. How many people go into an employment and because they've got a disability, they stay employed, they stay loyal and don't progress themselves as individuals and become greater employees or greater solvers of problems for other employers. So we're looking to encourage people to career change. Which moves on to the last couple of questions that we ask. I was 42 when I was diagnosed with my eye condition. I was told, well, you're going to have to go sick. You're not going to be able to stay in this employment. And because there's regulations and laws across the world that now support people, that statement was so wrong and so discouraging that I have forged forward to make sure that that isn't repeated for anybody else coming through. Is whilst you're in employment and you're a good, loyal employee, you've got the skill set, and you're told that you're going to lose your eyesight eventually, because it's never done overnight, is it? There is a period of time. We then work with the employers on how they support retaining people. And that comes back to the reasonable adjustments. That comes back to this fund that the UK has, Access to Work. Have a Google of that. It's through the government website, Access to Work. And that supports a lot of what Anja was saying of those reasonable adjustments. And it picks up not just the costs of those reasonable adjustments, but it also supports employers with a reasonable adjustment assessment. So that person will be assessed against that job, and they will be given the ways to work, the tools to carry out that work. And then it's how is that supported? And then going back to where I originated from, which is training. That blind and partially sighted person that has lost their eyesight whilst in employment may need to train to do the job in a different way. So we look at how the training courses are offered and how they are assessed as well, so that they are also inclusive. So just to recap, RNIB, Visibly Better Employer Quality Standard. It's a helping employers step change to go forward to a more inclusive workforce. Okay, so that's it from me. I welcome any questions. And if anyone wishes to discuss this either online or offline, my details will be attached at the end. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Anja and Roy. If everyone has a question for Anja or Roy, please, you're welcome. Or a comment or any thoughts or...
Or maybe just there are some representatives of the organization of blind partially sighted, so maybe you can also share your practice, how maybe you address the unemployment issue of blind partially sighted in your country, or something like that.
Can I put an open question out there? How many that are on today's presentation have a website, and how confident do they feel it works towards the screen readers assisted technology? Or we could reword that as anyone actually reviewed their career pages.
May I say some words about Hungary?
Yes, please.
Yeah, thank you.
In Hungary, according to the law, a person with a vision impairment of 66.6% or more is considered partially sighted. So this is the base. We have general problems in the labor market. For example, eye fatigue is a fundamental problem, mostly in office jobs, but also in other areas. There is a labor shortage also in Hungary, so tasks cannot be divided in a workplace. Everything must be done by the person, by one person. Thus, the visually impaired person cannot hand over tasks that strain the eyes. So it's a problem. And also in Hungary, jobs are more widely available for partially sighted people than blind persons, but at the same time, they cannot do manual labor due to eye pressure problems. And also low vision people are often conflicted because others cannot determine the extent of their visual impairment. So I just said the problems, but we work about these.
Mm-hmm.
If I can comment something, it's Nastia from Slovenia. I've been working now at the union for almost 3 years, and I'm not visually impaired. I'm not blind. And when you said, Roy, that sighted people are not aware of the website problems, no? I think sighted people are not aware of many things. Like many of them, they don't even know what being partially sighted means, you know. They think it's I'm having glasses, I'm wearing glasses, that's what makes me partially sighted, no? When it's not true, and they are not aware, the employers are not aware that it takes so little things to adapt the workplace, and you can be just equal worker, you know, as everyone else. And that's why the common thing between all the organizations here is to raise awareness, and also to raise awareness of the specific needs, you know, and the specifics of partially sighted or blind, because not all disabled people have the same needs, the same specifics. And sometimes I have feeling that organizations or companies, they you know, they try to be disabled people friendly, but they just put an ad for a workplace which is not suitable for all the disabled people, you know. that's what I think they should be aware, you know, to recognize the specifics of different people with different disabilities.
Yeah, that is so true. The conversations I have are usually with organisations that are looking beyond the gender pay gap. So that they're looking at, you know, they've looked at the obvious stages, and then they're looking beyond that of how do we become, you know, neurodiverse and across the workforce. And it comes back to that education piece and the raising the awareness. And I think everybody in this arena and everyone that listens to this in the future will be beyond that game. We'll all be trying to raise awareness and change the perception. We all get, oh, you don't look blind, put across us in many different formats. I don't know what blind looks like because we're all different. And I think that's part of the perception and part of the problems. But yeah, good point.
If it's okay, I would like to ask a question. We have in Switzerland, no, just before somebody said that it is very important that blind and visually impaired people are well educated. And I would like to focus on the knowledge of Braille. In Switzerland, a lot of young people, they do not like to learn Braille because it's easier for them to hear the text and not to read it by Braille. And we have made a study in Switzerland, and we have seen that the chance that you get a job if you know Braille, it's much higher than if you do not know reading Braille. First question, I would like to know if you have in your countries the same experience. And the second thing is that I'm a little bit afraid if young people do not learn Braille, especially if they are born blind, they become analphabets. Do you agree on that?
In Hungary, we also have this problem.
Mm-hmm. And what are you doing against this problem? Because it's difficult to motivate young people, and we have some specialists which join the visually impaired and blind people during the school, but they do only try to solve the problem today. They don't look to the next 2, 3, 4 years. They see now we have a problem, we have to solve this. And it's easier for them sometimes that the teacher gives them an iPad, and then they can, maybe if they can't see a little bit still, they can enlarge the screen, or they can listen to what the teacher is showing on the screen, but they don't think about the future, because yes, you solve the problem now, but in the future it will be the next problem because they are not able to read Braille.
We are thinking about this problem, and we started to think about 2025. We will organize the Braille clubs for teachers, not for special educators, teachers mainly.
Mm-hmm. So for teachers for Braille, or?
Yes, Braille, to help children in the integration. Okay. We have special educators in the integration, but not so many. So we try to teach teachers in the integration to learn Braille. Maybe it's a helpful way, but not the only solution for the problem.
And are the teachers, the Braille teachers, blind people?
No.
Because we try that. We try to give the blind people a chance to become a Braille teacher. That blind people teaches other blinds.
The the blind, the bright teacher is blind, but the teachers who teach
Okay.
are blind.
Okay.
I would have a question for Vilmantas. He came a little bit after we presented ourselves. He's from, well, you can say a few words about yourself, Vilmantas, so I won't say talk instead of you.
Thank you, thank you. I am Vilmantas Balčikonis from Lithuanian Association of the Blind and Partially Sighted. I'm the vice president of this organization, and yes, we are in peculiar situation because our organization still has 3 enterprises that are left from Soviet times, and we, in their statutes, in some other regulations, we strongly encourage, and directors get bonuses if they reach some percentage of blind and partially sighted working in those enterprises. So we still have this system left, but in general in Lithuania we have also benefits for employers who employ disabled people. So it's kind of this. We went away from the sheltered system, from special enterprises system, and now the support travels with the blind or partially sighted person wherever he goes. But yet we don't have a quota system. Public sector, I think, will introduce it soon. But yet we don't have such things. We, as organization, we are not working so strongly in this area yet. We tried with EBU, with help from EBU. I myself was involved. Slovenian partners also last year. So we tried to make gather youngsters and talk about employment, how to approach, how to make your CV, how to be attractive, and how to behave in those situations, and so on. So we tried some things, but I think yeah, it could be done in better ways, and I was kind of impressed with last presentation, and maybe it would be interesting to have the systematic those questions put systematically, and to maybe also use them when we maybe next year work with companies, because European Accessibility Act, which of course is about accessibility, information accessibility, some product accessibility. It sparked some attention to this area, and even few our organization members, few people went to work to huge companies, banks, telecommunication companies, like information accessibility experts. So maybe we can use this to our advantage. And if you have questions, more questions about Lithuania, you can also, of course, ask. Thank you.
Thank you, Vilmantas. Also, maybe if there is still a representative from Kosovo that also joined us a little bit after we started. If you are still with us, maybe you can share a few things with us. Or maybe you're only listening to us, right? Okay, so Anja, maybe a conclusion from you if there is no more questions.
Yeah, okay, so if there are no more comments or something, I would like to thank you to listening to our webinar, and thank you also you, Roy, to participate as a special guest. And I hope that your good practice case at your Royal National Institute of the Blind will also serve as a good example for other NGOs in providing, let's say, support for individuals with low vision in other countries. So really thank you. And yeah, it's a lot of work that needs to be done still in this field. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much from my side and from the Union of Blind and Partially Sighted of Slovenia. Thank you all for coming and for your sharing your knowledge. If anyone wants to send me, I don't know, a website or some cases that could be shared, please, you can do it. You know my email, and then I will share it to the other members that are here right now. Also, if you think it's not our emails are not secret or something, I cannot put it in this secret copy, or how is this even the word in English, so we can spread around our emails, if that's okay.
Yeah.
So maybe we can share some experiences for the future.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. So yeah, I would also like to welcome you to our next webinar that will take place next Friday, also at 10 a.m. And then on third webinar that will take place on 15 December. Or if you're not that interested in this topic, you can invite your colleagues or friends to join us. And thank you. I wish you all a lovely weekend. There's going to be some snow, at least in some countries, in Slovenia and Hungary. They say it was snowing, and even England, there was some snow, right?
Yeah.
And Vilmantas, how is in Lithuania?
It's also cold and snowy.
Yeah.
Right. How is Latvia also preparing for Christmas?
Oh, it's the same as in Vilnius. I have just
Okay.
returned from Lithuania, so it's very, very snowy around
Oh, wow.
here.
Awesome. How is in
Yeah.
Switzerland?
Yes, same with us. A lot of snow, very cold. So sometimes hard to go the way because there is too much snow sometimes, and we do not find anymore our guidance lines and so on. Well, snow is fine, but difficult for us to move around.
It is.
That's another issue to address, right?
Of course.
Yes.
Of course.
Yes.
One of 100 others.
Yes. Okay, well, thank you, everybody, and have a lovely weekend, and see you again, hopefully.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Goodbye.